What it do, Packer Nation? I'm Camille Davis coming to you live from the Pack a Day podcast YouTube side of things, right after the Packers defeated the Texans 24-22 on a game-winning field goal from their brand new kicker, Brandon McManus, which, let me say, the very same week the Packers go out and get a new kicker, that kicker is the one who wins the game for him. I got to tell you, the script writers out here, it's a little predictable. I mean, who didn't see that coming? But no, jokes aside, it was a crazy game that if it was script writers behind it, they did a good job with it. You had 7 lead changes in this one, and it was a back and forth affair, which got to start here. Shout out to the defense. Shout out to the defense. They came up with big plays consistently, even though this was one of the first games, the first game actually, without getting any takeaways, no interceptions, no fumbles, no nothing. They just came and made some noise when they had to do it. And let's start with our defensive coordinator. Hafley has been cooking, y'all, on third downs, and he was cooking in the kitchen all day against the Texans, getting them in the third and long, and he was going to bring it. Even some of like the exotic looks that he got, like the sack that McKinney got, where he had the safety blitz, which he was kind of in the slot of like a cornerback, but came off, got the blitz. They only rushed 4 in that particular situation, but like McKinney was free off the edge. They did not expect him to come on that one. So shout out to Hafley for the cooking job that he's been doing on third down and just how aggressive this team was looking today. I mean, the pass rush was there. It was consistent throughout the game, and I was not sure what we were going to see from the Packers pass rush in this one, given the fact that earlier in the year when we saw them against mobile quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts and then Anthony Richardson, it was like, okay, I can understand why there's not much pass rush here. You're sitting here trying to contain the quarterback. Even last week against the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, where you're like, okay, is this part of the plan? I get it. But today, CJ Stroud was running for his life most of the game. I saw Mina Kimes tweet out, I think during the third quarter, that like at that particular time in the game, Stroud had been pressured 50% of all of his dropbacks, like literally running for his life throughout most of the game. And Rashawn Gary was back there causing a lot of that noise, which was really good to see, given the fact that he's been a little quiet so far this season. So to see him come up, have a big game was really cool to see. Not cool though. Quay Walker had a concussion. He did not return to the game. So definitely hope that he's good. Very important player for this defense. Regardless of how some folks out there in Packer Nation might feel about him, his role is important. Green dot on the helmet. He organizes everybody. So him going out the game could cause some confusion. You did see the Texans score shortly after he exited the game, but Eric Wilson came in and he asserted himself. Like he had a good game. Shout out to Wilson. Shout out to Edrin Cooper. Continued to look solid as well. I mean, the Packers defense did a great job against Stroud. They kept him to 10 to 21 on the day, 86 yards, y'all. No touchdowns, no interceptions because, Packers didn't get none today, but 4 sacks. Like they did a fantastic job on CJ Stroud in this offense outside. Joe Mixon is special, y'all. He had himself a day, 2 touchdowns, 25 carries, 115 yards. He was good, but the Packers were able to get key stops down the stretch when it mattered. And the Packers almost tricked this game off, y'all. And that's what happens normally in a close game. Someone almost tricks something off. Packers have to make sure going forward that they take better care of the ball and just be a bit more disciplined. Like the Packers had 3 giveaways in this game. And each one of those giveaways put the Packers defense in a terrible position. And the Texans were able to turn those 3 Packer giveaways into 16 points. So 16 of their 22 came off of the 3 giveaways that the Packers had. Like, it's not great. Jordan Love now leads the NFL in interceptions, 8 after he had 2 today. Despite him missing 2 games, he leads the league in interceptions. He had 12 all of last season. And when I watch Jordan Love play, it's like, Spider-Man, how he's always told, like, with great power comes great responsibility. With Jordan Love, it's like with great arm talent comes great responsibility as well. He's aggressive because he has that great arm power and that great arm talent. There are some times when he is going to make a decision that doesn't seem smart, but he trusts in his arm. And I mean, we saw that play out today. The Kraft touchdown. Oh my God. Amazing. The throw, he just threw it harder and faster than the defense could get to it. Like it went through the hands of the back end safety on that particular play. And there's Kraft making a diving catch going for it, touchdown. I mean, even the Wicks touchdown, crazy ball placement from Jordan Love on that one. But on the other side of that, you have like the first interception, tried to fit into a really tight window. It got tipped, it got picked. The second interception, he was pressured a little bit, threw it up to Watson, but the throw was a little too high. And honestly, I don't even think Jordan Love thought that was a bad play necessarily. He just thought I missed my guy. Like, it was just too high for Watson to come down with it. But again, great power, great responsibility. That's part of the Jordan Love like experience, especially at this point in his career. You want to see the interceptions dial back, of course, because you got to take care of the football. But he's gonna take some chances, and that's also what makes Jordan Love Jordan Love. So for those who thought that it was the second coming of Rodgers, looking a bit more looking a bit more Favre-like, looking like Jordan Lorenzo out there on the field. But I know Matt LaFleur was like, we need to cool it on some of the Brett Favre comparisons, but on the field, not a bad thing necessarily. And also, we can't leave without talking about special teams. We started with the good news, right? McManus came in, knelt the game winner. He was 1-1 on the day. You love to see it. But the first half alone, special teams, woo boy. They had the holding penalty on the opening kickoff. That was like a 40-yarder that got negated somewhat. You had the botched kick return that led to the Texans touchdown, where Nixon should have caught it given the fact that it was so crowded back there, but he let it bounce. It hits Ballantyne. Texans get that. Again, they score a touchdown. And then you had the Texans returning a 42-yarder. And then in the second half, you had Reed where he fielded a punt that he should have let bounce. And then the Packers started from like their own threes. But hey, again, McManus, he nailed the game winner. So shout out to him for that. And shout out to Whelan. Shout out to Whelan from the amazing punts that he had. Like his last three punts went for 62, 66, and 61. And all of those were like from or near the Packers end zone. He was flipping the field for this Packers team when that offense was stalling. And then shout out to him again for the bad snap that was low on the game-winning field goal, for him to be able to get that down, get it up so that McManus can actually have a chance to put it through the uprights, and he did that. So shout out to him as well. But again, things for the Packers to clean up. Still too many penalties, 8 for 55 yards today. The Texans, who were the NFL's most penalized team coming into this game, have 5 for 55. So like at least the yardage evened out, but you don't want to shoot yourselves in the foot too often. But again, the Packers almost tricked it off, but almost doesn't count. Almost doesn't count. They are still figuring things out for sure. For sure, they're still figuring things out, and there's room to improve. There is room to grow, but they're at that spot while sitting at 5-2. Last year, they were trying to figure things out as well, and they were 2-5 after 7 games last year. So you can see some growth in this particular Packers team. You want to continue seeing it, especially going into next week against the Jaguars team that's not the best, not the best. So room for improvement for this team for sure, but you love to be looking at those areas of improvement after a dub more so than after a loss. And listen, every week in the NFL ain't going to be clean. You have to win the game in different ways. And the Packers pulled out an impressive, ugly win where they were -3 in the turnover battle. You don't see teams winning that too often. So shout out to the Packers for the win. Script writers couldn't have drew it up better this week for him. So make sure that you guys keep it locked in to the Pack a Day podcast. Andy and the crew here do such a wonderful job. So keep it tuned for all of your Packer needs here on Pack a Day podcast. I'm Camille Davis. I'll talk to y'all later. And as always, go Pack, go.